Thanks for checking us out on the Ticats Audio Network for this special presentation. As we know, the CFL draft just over a week away, May 3rd, next Tuesday, and keep it locked here to the Ticats Audio Network for exclusive coverage leading up to and into draft day, including this. Earlier today, the president of football operations and head coach, Orlondo Steinauer, along with the director of Canadian Scouting and assistant general manager, Drew Allemang, took questions from the local and national media, and here is what they had to say.
I think in terms of strengths, I think there you go. I think each position group kind of has some players in it that you're excited about. I wouldn't say there's a dominant position group, but more kind of across the whole landscape. There's some players that you're excited about near the front end of the draft.
Where you are, can you get one of those players, Drew, or are you, by the time you're picking, will you be looking futures?
I think we'll see how it plays out. I mean, you never know exactly how each team's going to see it. But I think, we'll be excited about a player that's there, just kind of how we have things arranged, and where we're picking. I mean, we don't know which player it's going to be, but we think there'll be someone there that we're excited about.
So there's enough talent to go around basically in the first round. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, Louis B. Please go ahead.
Oh, obviously there's a lot different from last year, but can you kind of just put it all in perspective for us? Different bodies, later in the round, just one pick versus two, just how different, put into perspective for us, how different it is preparing this time around compared to 2021.
Well, I don't think the preparation changes a ton. You're always putting in work throughout the year. Obviously Drew's got the biggest background on the majority of players. We always have, the way we've done it here is we've always come in kind of late in the scene, after free agency, that sort of thing. And that's when the coaches really hone in on it. But each year is always different, but our process hasn't changed over the last few years, really since June's been here, right? It's kind of all been in pretty much seamless for us from that standpoint, Louis. So, everybody's working diligently. We're adding, different variables and data points. And like Drew mentioned, we're going to be excited at 8 with who we're going to get.
And just a follow up to Drew, what's it been like to have Spencer back, to have Ed in the room, two different voices that haven't been around the last few years? Have you picked up on anything from having that extra experience in the room with you?
Oh yes, for sure. I mean, you're always kind of trying to learn from whoever you work with. But Spencer and I have known each other for quite some time. We've worked together for a while too. So I mean, we see things similarly, and he's an excellent evaluator. So I mean, you're always kind of picking his brain and learning different things from him. And Ed's the same way. I think I met Ed. I forget which U Sports East-West game it was at, but I'd always see Ed on the road, and had a really good relationship with him. And he's another person with a lot of knowledge that he's a little bit I shouldn't say this, but he's a little bit older than us. So I mean, he has a different perspective, and he's been around a lot of football. He's played at a high level. So I think any kind of opinion you get is worth listening to and kind of putting it into your process, really.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Louis. Next question, Glenn Suter. Please go ahead, Glenn.
Hey, gentlemen, how are you? I hope I know you're looking forward to this season as much as I am, and a full season. Hey, but I got a question regarding just the last couple of months and sort of a big picture question on how you felt about some of the narratives that have been out there and some of the discussions. I don't think it's you necessarily have to get into any details on any of the specific stories, but just some of the narratives. And I'm curious to know that if you believe, and this is for both guys, if you believe, as I do, that our game is played by world-class athletes, coached by world-class coaches, and the most exciting game on the planet?
That's an action-packed question. I'm always for innovation. I think if you came in our organization and you're able to sit down, Glenn, first of all, great to hear you. I guess we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always looking at innovative and creative. I think we don't ever want to stay the same. That's internally, that's offense, defense, special teams. And so I'm for trying to make our game more exciting and better, and the creativity. Now, what comes to fruition, that's a whole different conversation, but exploratory talks and really diving in and making some changes that we think will help our game and help our league. I'm always for those type of things. What I'm not for is just always squashing ideas at a round table and saying what won't happen when we're afforded opportunities in preseason or other things like that. And if nothing changes, then nothing changes. So speaking about the coaches in the league, I love the coaches in this league. I think that, listen, when you're in this coaching profession, we're all putting in the same type of hours, right? And that's what we sign up for. And that's kind of what you love about it, the grind and that sort of thing. Just like I would never sit here and say that we have the best coaching staff or the best personnel department. That's irrelevant for us, right? We try to assemble the best people we can and then let everybody on the outside judge who's the best, who's world-class, who's elementary, who's rookie. So that's not a conversation that we really entertain. But I think that there are great coaches in this league. I think there are great players in this league. And I think that, just like anything in life, Glenn, if you're given an opportunity, which is what all people can ask for, is an opportunity. I think people can, if they had other aspirations, be it NFL or NCAA or whatever, I think there's definitely coaches that could do that.
Drew, what's your thoughts on that? On just, what Coach touched on?
Yeah, it's, a lot of the same. I grew up around the CFL, just with having a father that played. So it was always a big part of my life. I have a lot of respect for the league, its history, all the players and coaches that have been here. But, I'm always open to listening to new ideas. Just, we're in our scouting processes. We're constantly trying to learn and adjust the way we do things. So, I'm always open to listening to ideas, and, it doesn't mean anything has to be changed.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good luck this year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Suits. Next question, John Hodge, please go ahead.
Thanks for doing this, gentlemen. The Lions announced last week Steven Richardson is going to miss some time with an off-season injury. I was just curious, are you aware of anybody on your roster who might, have an ailment coming into camp, training injury of any kind?
Hey, John, how you doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, well, that makes three of us doing great. Yeah, I'll be straight with you here, John. We don't have any concerns. That's the truth. However, we wouldn't divulge it anyway. I just, I believe in being transparent and authentic, and that's the truth. But here's the thing. Here's what I've learned is that there's always surprises, though, John. To be honest with you, people that say they're in shape, it might not even be a big injury. It could just be a simple thing about being in shape, and then they show up not in shape, and they both result in the same thing, and that means not being on the practice field. Right. So that's kind of a roundabout way to answer your question, but it's authentic and it's honest.
I appreciate that. For the record, I'm showing up to training camp out of shape. I wanted to ask you about Jake Burt. Jake Burt missed all last season with injury. Nikola Kalinic is in the NFL. That would seem to give Burt a heck of an opportunity. What are your expectations from Jake this season?
Just bring what Jake brings to the table. We don't want anybody else to fill anybody else's shoes. We want them to bring their skill set and bring it consistently. And that will enable us to coach around it and give ourselves the best opportunity to win. So, Jake should be well rested. And I know, we've had some some back and forth conversation, and he's from all indications, he's going to be ready to go. And so we're excited for that. I mean, he looked great in his first little bit of camp last year, and then a lot of unfortunate things unfolded.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, Rick Zamperin. Please go ahead, Rick.
Hey, Drew. Hey, thanks for doing this. Always great to see you guys. Just to follow up on Glenn Suter's question about rule changes potentially, what's the most impactful thing, in your mind, that can be done without drastically changing the game? And should those sort of things be tested out during free agency or during the preseason? Sorry.
Again, I think thanks, Rick. Good to see you, buddy. I really don't waver from what I said before. I am open to trying different things. And that way we have a sample. And I'm happy with, at the end of the day, saying that's exactly why we didn't explore this before, and we can put it to bed. But at least we're putting it to bed with action. So I am for experimenting. Which ones? I know one thing: you can't do them all. And so, and we won't land at them all. I don't necessarily have a preference, except for to not remain status quo and not try anything.
Just to follow up, that's completely unrelated. We have an 18-game season this year as opposed to 14. Normal time for training camps, the draft, the whole kit and caboodle. How nice is it to get some normalcy back in the Canadian Football League?
I don't know if this is beyond nice. I think it's important for just the coaches, the players, the whole thing. It just the training camp's already short, and that's the beauty of it. That's what I love about it, trying to get people together in a short period of time. But you also want to be able to prepare them for the battles that they're going to be facing. So I'm actually excited, for training camp, of course, but extremely excited for preseason game. For the younger players mainly, but as a general statement for everybody.
And if I can, just same question to Drew, just the composition of the team and how the normalcy kind of helps in that regard.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I mean, for a lot of the younger players, I think just not having the preseason games last year was a big deal. I mean, we didn't get to see them in action. The coaches didn't get to see what they can do necessarily right away. So I think that will be the exciting thing about it, and obviously more football. And from a scouting perspective, I mean, just we were able to get out on the road last year, but it was quite a bit different, and it was later into the year, and there was some challenges there. So I think overall, just kind of getting back to normal is exciting.
All right, thanks, guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Next question, Steve Milton, please go ahead.
Hi, guys. I'll start with can I ask you if you're able to pinpoint? I mean, I know there's going to be battles almost everywhere, particularly for backups. But is there one particular battle or two that stand out here that you have to? I mean, you've got 4 kickers in camp. You weren't happy with your kicking game last year. Is that the number one battle in your mind? What is it possible to say?
How you doing, Steve? I don't think. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that competition in camp. It's an area that we want to improve, but we also, the ones that we have coming back, we're excited about too. I think there's going to be a lot of growth, right? Mm-hmm. And all of us, that played a long time in this league didn't always work out the first go round. Yeah. Right. And you guys can all name the kickers better than I could that. Were on the street and then got called back and got cut and all those other things. And some of the best ones ended up that way. So, I'm looking forward to that competition. And anybody who's been around here knows that that's a word we use a lot, and that is competing. And so we're excited everywhere to compete. We're different at the quarterback spot, obviously, than last year, Steve. And where it's, Dane's going to take the bulk of the reps from the beginning and that, but other than that, I'm looking forward to competition everywhere, Steve.
Okay. I mean, you've got a couple of spots where some surprises could happen, right? I mean, you've got Sam linebacker, you've got offensive tackles, those kinds of things that are, I don't want to say question marks, but are up there as sort of
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anytime you leave, free agency, when you have players that other teams want, there's always going to be holes to fill, right? So yeah, if you're talking about, the Jaguar Davis had a starting spot, and Kalinic had a starting spot, and Jordan Murray had a starting spot. So there's holes to fill, but but the competition is going to be throughout everywhere, right? And that's the exciting part of training camp, and somebody will surface and win the job, and you hope that it's a tough decision and you can't decide who's supposed to start at a position, but that'll all take care of itself.
Okay, could I ask Drew an unrelated question to this? Some GMs have talked about maybe having a little trouble signing some players that were on neg lists and that kind of thing because of the XFL getting going, and those players, even if that doesn't last, want to get some tape. Are you running into that, or what's happening?
I've been focused a lot on the draft right now, but I know Zim and Ed, they're kind of handling a lot of that at the moment. Maybe some, I'd say the USFL, just with players that were maybe drafted there.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Or USFL, I guess it'd be.
Not all of them were on, our neg list and things like that. But, I think there's always, every year there's some challenges. There's American players that are at various points in their career, and this kind of time, like they're hoping to catch on with an NFL team. So I think, it's maybe a little different, but nothing that, you can't really work through.
Okay, thanks, guys. I might have, when everybody's finished, might have another one. But okay.
Thanks, Steve. Next question, Justin Dunk. Please go ahead, Dunk.
This one's for Coach O. I'm just curious if Braylon Addison is fully healthy, and if so, what do you expect for him in 22 after being off the field for pretty much all last year?
Yeah, Braylon will be ready to go, and expectations are for him to make the plays that he's capable of making, right? That's it. And you can only do that if you're on the field. So it's really that streamlined, Justin. He's ready to go. He's already in town, and training looks great. But ultimately it's not about being healthy in the beginning. It's about being healthy all the way through, and of course at the end. So I don't put expectations on people like, being all-star, 100 catches, yada, yada. Just want him to be consistent and make timely plays consistent like he's capable of doing.
And it seemed like from the free agent perspective, there's been some discussion about Jaguar Davis leaving, that you guys sort of pivoted and signed Micah Johnson is inside. Is that kind of the way that it played out behind the scenes? And then how do you envision Micah fitting into the defense? Can he play inside and outside for you, or how might we see him utilized?
Yeah, so with Micah, like obviously he's going to be a great fit. We're going to pencil him in there next to Dylan and shore up the inside there. But I think both Dylan and Micah are talented enough to go out and rush a few times outside, but they're going to take the majority of their snaps inside. And so we're excited about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, Frank, please go ahead.
I guess, first of all, can I still call you coach or PFO?
I'm
just kidding. Just kidding. You've been given an opportunity. That's what this is all about, right? The season beginning, the draft, players. Speak to the opportunity out there for players right now that maybe Drew will give you, and how you expect them to show up. This being the first time in a couple of years where people can really, they can really have a good time being football players.
So you know what? Can you rephrase your question? I want to make sure I answer it because I'll go down a different road. What is exactly you're asking?
Well, what I'm asking is the experience that the players are going to have coming to camp right from the beginning, knowing they're going to play. How helpful is that to both you and Drew in regards to the commitment the players can make? Because, the last couple of years, people have been kind of hesitant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. Again, touched on it a little bit, but I would just say that the fact that let's take the rookies from last year, for example. To me, they played 2 seasons right away, without having, all of a sudden we're lining up in Saskatchewan and, they have no idea what they're in for because there's no way you can emulate that in practice, right? So there was a learning curve, and not just for us, but for, anybody in the league, right? This wasn't a Hamilton thing. And so I'm excited for even last year's rookies to get a chance to play in the preseason, maybe at a position versus just special teams. And then obviously for the incoming class, this is more the norm. And, I'm always excited for them to get out there and understand the speed of the game. That's just something that's hard to emulate in practice. And so I think from that standpoint, we'll be a lot further ahead.
Yeah, Drew, the same question to you. So that when you're drafting players now this year, they're going to have the time, like you said, in training camp, they're going to get a real opportunity. Does that change in any way how you pick, who you pick, and how important your previous picks are when everybody shows up at camp?
No, I don't think it changes, what you do from a draft standpoint. I mean, I was last training camp, all, the wave of rookies and veterans that came in. I mean, I was really impressed with just how prepared they were for, just there was some uncertainty whether we would play, and everything going on with the pandemic. I thought, people made the most of how they were able to train with gyms not open and everything. And, I guess from this draft standpoint, I mean, some of these players, they didn't play, last year, and then they were back playing in the 2021 season. But they too, they kind of had to navigate through not having facilities at their school open or facilities in the public open, and having to do things on their own. And, I think if anything, it helps you with when you're evaluating, talking to them, just, asking them how they were able to do that and what they did, and just kind of listening to their plan and how they carried through with it, I think, tells you something about them as a player too. So, I think for all of them, I think it's just an even better opportunity, a full training camp with preseason games. And, I think it just gives everyone a great opportunity to come in and make the team.
Congratulations to you, Drew, on your opportunity, both you gentlemen, and good luck this season.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Next question, Bubba O'Neill, please go ahead.
Hey, fellas, good to see you, and thanks for doing this as always. I'll start with Coach. One of the big storylines going into last year, obviously, was the fact that you were hosting the Grey Cup. And I think also just talking to some of the players, the fact that what happened in the first Grey Cup loss was a motivating factor for the following year. Is there that pressure this year to get back? I mean, it's always pressure to win, but is there a little lightening of the load in terms of, because you're not hosting this year?
How you doing, Bubs? Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, we addressed, I'll just go back to last year, we addressed, obviously, because we knew we were going to get asked questions about it in the beginning. The questions kind of tapered off in the middle of the year. Then when playoff picture started, people started talking a lot more about it, but we never focused on it. We just kind of acknowledged it because it was a reality, but it wasn't anything that we spent time on or stayed in the office longer, tried any harder. And then when it comes to this year, 2022 is a whole different football team, right? And so the fact that the Grey Cup's in Saskatchewan and not Hamilton, yeah, that's obviously a fundamental difference. But we approach, each season the same, and that's to figure out who our 2022 team is and how we can best be prepared to put our best team out on the field week one.
Thanks, Coach. Drew, I'll just ask you this one. I mean, it's been years, I think, where I've seen so many. I mean, the draft has always been about the, Canadian offensive linemen. I've seen a lot of guys at skill position that could be really special and play in this league in maybe a year or 2 years. Just a little bit on what you see in terms of the draft this year in this draft class.
Yeah, like in terms of like the skill players, you're saying?
Yeah, just the fact that there's not just the big Canadian offensive linemen, that there's a seemingly increase in talent at some skill positions in terms of the Canadians. Is that a proper observation? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think there definitely is. I mean, there's some, some players in youth sports, that are, the skill type players that are coming through. That, yeah, you're really excited about. You see them having, impactful roles in the CFL, and there's some skill players that are either in the NFL or in high level NCAA football, and I think it's an exciting time for football in Canada.
Is it fair to say, I'm with the Tiger Cats, or at least your philosophy, and I'm sure it's a team philosophy, by drafting by need or by what you deem as the best potential kid out there?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends for us, like where in the draft you are. I mean, I think ideally you can get a really good player and it also kind of satisfies a need. But I mean, there's other parts of the draft, like as you go into the draft, where you might navigate more towards kind of like getting the best football player that's there, and I mean, you can never have enough good football players.
I know you won't name names, but do you have a guy circled right now that you think, at least in that first round, the first 2 rounds, that you want?
I mean, just where we're picking, I mean, you kind of have 8 of them that you're excited about, but you just we don't know what's going to happen in front of us, but we'll definitely be excited with whoever's there.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, Dan Ralph, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Drew, come around back to you and just dovetail onto what Bubba was talking about. I wonder if I could just ask you what your thoughts are on the 2 sets of twins who are available in this year's draft, the Philpotts and the Fords. Just a brief, I don't know, a word or two about all 4 of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, all 4 of them, they're different players, the 2 sets, but I mean they're tremendous athletes, tremendous competitors. I mean, they really love the game of football. They're passionate about it. Their lives kind of revolve around football, and I think all 4 of them will be good football players.
Is there a room, if I may follow up, is there a place for a Canadian quarterback in the CFL? When I look at Trey, could he come in and play that position right away? Not right, but could he be a Canadian quarterback in this league?
Yeah, I mean, I think he can. I think it's tough for any position through the Canadian draft to just say like they're going to come in and play right away. But I mean, there's another team using Canadian quarterbacks, and I think Trey has as a football player, the mindset and everything that you could foresee him doing that.
Great. And good afternoon, Orlondo. May I ask you, does the CBA talks have any impact on your planning for the upcoming season? Do you guys is that even on your radar?
Yeah, there's nothing more to expand on that than no, and that's not because of silence or anything. That's just we're planning ahead as a training camp date, and if that alters, it alters, right? We can't control that, but we're business as usual. We're full steam ahead based off of the timeline we have currently.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Next, Chris O'Leary, go ahead.
Hey, guys. Quick question for Orlondo. I think you mentioned Dane Evans a little while ago. Just curious kind of what the communication's been like with him through this offseason. I know it sounds like he's kind of been back and forth between Hamilton and I think Oklahoma. Are you happy with where he's at, and how's he looked to you, I guess, in the times that you've seen him?
Well, Dane's consistent, right? He's been in the building. He's been around. I've seen him in the weight room, trying to get him off the power cleaning platform. Dane's a committed player and person. He wants to get better. He's got a computer. He's that guy, right? So, obviously I've only seen him throw a little bit, but his arm was never a question, right? We have our guy, and looking forward to him going out and competing and be the best version of himself. And, I know he's been in constant communication with his other receivers and the other quarterbacks also. So, as far as the things that are in the control of Dane right now, extremely pleased where he's at, both mentally and physically. And, I think if you asked him, he'd say that he's most at this point looking forward to training camp and getting to go.
I know you're the defensive side of things, but do you see the offense changing for him at all, just with him being, your guy and kind of him being in that spot for the first time?
Well, I think your offense is always, I'm always encouraging our coordinators to not stay the same, to evolve a little bit. Obviously, Dane's going to have a few things that he does better, and also plays that he likes, right? It's important to tap into those things, but we kind of have an offense that we run, and Dane was well aware of that when he signed back, but we're always going to tailor it to his strengths and to our receiver strengths. And of course, it always comes down to protection. So if you're asking for like a wholesale change, well, we look completely different, I would say that's not likely going to be the case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Last two questions here. Justin Dunk, go ahead.
Coach, I'm curious if you're happy that you won't have to answer every week potentially who your starting quarterback is going to be this year.
Can't fool you. That was a little bit draining last year, but hey, there's a reason we went and signed Schultz, and we like Jalen Morton and Jamie. So I'm looking forward to those guys getting an opportunity to play in the preseason also, and just see how strong we are at the quarterback position.
Do you think it'll benefit the team in any way that there's that determined number one guy and there maybe won't be so much back and forth?
We didn't, you could just go thumb through article after article, and you guys always tried to break Jeremiah or Dane or me when it comes to any animosity or anything. It was never like that in our building. So it wasn't really a challenge at all. It was just, as you kind of alluded to, just answering to it each week. We knew that wasn't going to last forever, put it like that, Justin. When you have two franchise quarterbacks, we were very fortunate to have them in the building. I don't see it as any advantage or disadvantage going into this year.
Right on. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last question, Frank, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, is there, between the both of you, is there anybody that you've got coming in this year who really excites you to see what they'll be like in the locker room?
I'm not even sure I've ever been asked that. I guess my quick answer would probably just be not really. I think the leaders just kind of form and just naturally. And to be honest with you, I don't spend a lot. I don't really go, except for to go to our therapy room. I'm not in the locker room. That's the player's place. And that's just kind of the way we've always formulated it. And, outside what we may see on the field or whatnot, I'm really not aware of who's in control of the music or who's running the locker room or any of those type of things. It's not something that I ever ask. I can't speak for Drew if he's excited for that or not, but I can say that it doesn't really cross my mind a whole bunch.
I love that I have to be specific when I ask you questions. So how about going on to the field? Does that help anymore?
Is there anybody that I'm excited about? No, I know one person. I know the people that are going to be consistent, and those were the same ones from last year. That and I think there's lots of ways to lead. To be honest with you, Frank, it doesn't always have to be, as they say, the loudest person. Sometimes you lead by preparation, right? Sometimes there's just lots of different ways to lead. So, we've lost or a few people that had leadership roles have moved on, and so naturally those get filled by other people. But I don't ever set expectations in the beginning of who I think it might be or who I think it should be.
Yeah, I wasn't asking in the sense of instead or. I was asking because football teams, they're a group. They're not just an individual. Thanks for answering anyway. You did a good job answering it, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Drew? Anybody you've drafted that you're looking forward to on the field that really jumps out at you?
No, I think all the young players, the past few draft classes, just see their growth over an off season where, they've had access to weight rooms and everything. And, experience of playing now and knowing what they needed to maybe work on for our level, our team. I think you're just excited to see where they all come back in at.